'Tis the season, as they say, and in today's video, we're going to paint a landscape, which is the first of probably several commissions I'll have for the holidays. And I usually take them on a first come, first served basis. So I've already jumped on this little landscape, got it done, and I'm gonna take you on that little journey. And no, this particular one, well, here's the photo reference that I'm working from to do it. And as you can see, it involves buildings. And for me, perspective and buildings is always a struggle. I will not lie about that. It's always a struggle. So you'll get to see me struggle a little bit with this particular piece. Yeah, that's always fun. So, but yes, this is a little commission piece that I've done actually work for this particular family before. And this is a homestead. This little stretch of land means something to them. So I've got to get it right. You know, I've got to do it right. So again, thank you so much for joining me. And if you are my subscribers, thank you so very much. And if you like to watch painting tutorials, whether it's landscapes, pet portraits, human portraits, what have you, then you came to the right place. And I'm Suzanne Barrett Justis, and we're going to go ahead and jump into this little landscape. So hold on tight. Let's take off. This is the landscape I'll be doing. It's actually a commission piece, and it's a repeat customer of mine, and it's a little homestead. I think they called this the little house, and I think it's actually quite lovely. Even the composition's kind of interesting. So yeah, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead and start this one, and I don't know how long we'll get into it, but we'll see where it takes us. And we're moving over to here, and even though I go moving back for a second, you see that this is a longer piece. They wanted it on a square canvas, so that means I'll be doing a little bit of changing around, if you will. So I'll probably be making it a little bit more trees and making it a little bit taller. But to tell you what our paints that we're working with today, up here in the corner, I have, this is Bright Green Lake by Michael Harding. I have Permanent Green Light, Sap Green, both by Winsor Newton. I have Ivory Black as it runs down here. I've got King's Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Cerulean Blue, Titanium White. This is Payne's Gray, Burnt Sienna, and Van Dyke Brown. And that's the colors we're starting with, but you know me, I'll probably be adding some more, but let's go ahead and jump into this little landscape. So hopefully you won't be thrown too much by this weird angle, but the brushes I'm gonna start with today are a number 3 and a number 8. They're just the Shiraz Filberts. And I'm just gonna do kind of a really super loose sketch. And it almost doesn't matter what the color is at this point. I'm just gonna use a lot of paint thinner. And because the main thing is the little house. And I'm gonna move my reference in a little bit more. Bring that a little closer. Okay, you can see it a little bit. And I'm just gonna take a little Payne's Gray. As I mentioned earlier, I am not a big fan of doing perspective pieces. So I started off just doing some vanishing point lines just to kind of guide me, thinking that might help me get this in. Well, I start, and yes, it's keeping me within normal confines of perspective, I suppose. But I realize doing this, I'm already halfway into the piece, and this one little building is taking up too much space, and I'm gonna have to start over again. I realize this when I'm doing this. I'm thinking, you know what, this is wrong. So take 2. And then I go ahead and kind of try it again, just sketching it on. I sort of can see the lines, but this isn't working. This just isn't working. So I kind of go with the horizon line idea. I'm just going to go ahead and start my background, and I'm giving myself a little bit more sky room, if you will, because I am doing a square piece. And so I thought, well, if I do that, then maybe I can start sketching in my little building here. And I'm suggesting where the trees are going, the little wall. It's still wrong. It's still wrong. And I'm getting closer, but yeah, perspective, not my thing. Take 3. So erase it. And then I kind of get this little drawing in. And at this point, I'm a whole lot closer. And so it's kind of smooth sailing from here. I do still have some corrections that will have to be made, but what's wonderful is if you're working it this way, there's no commitment. I'm just working with a lot of paint thinner, and so I'm starting to get a little bit more solid and just putting down some actual paint so I can see this come together. Now, because of the glow that all this green grass is, this building has a green cast to it. Now, it could be green paint. I don't think so. I think that the building's actually a little white building, a clapboard building, but it looks to be kind of a light green. And so I'm just suggesting where all my different levels of the landscape are going, keeping in mind, I have to keep the value system in mind, and that being that my values will be lighter in the background and cooler in temperature as I progress towards the foreground. So I'm being very mindful of those elements in my color. So you can see just from looking at here that I do definitely have a very muted gray toned tree line in the background that's, and it's very cool and light in value. And then you can see as you're progressing, it gets a little bit more intense as you're getting closer. I did add a little bit of Michael Harding's Caribbean turquoise to the mix. Now, you will rarely see me use a flat or a bright type of brush. I'm always talking about filberts and rounds. Well, when I'm doing buildings, it's one of the few times you'll actually see me use a flat. And this particular one that I'm using is a Richardson Gray Matter brush. It's actually a pretty nifty little brush. It works great. And, just actually mixing some color in. So my red barn has to keep in mind it's very muted because it is far off. And it's probably an old barn, so it's probably faded. But I'm making it very simple because, hey, let's face it, it's way off in the background. And you can see how wonderful this little nice edge on this little brush is working for me. And I'm getting this little barn in there. And so I'll get in a little closer so you can see. So one of the best ways to bring down your red is to use its complement. And I probably mixed just a little bit of green into that red. I used alizarin crimson and probably burnt sienna. And the barn roof did look rather white. And I'm able just to, just like that. It's very simple. Remember, this barn is way off in the background. There needs to be very little detail. But I just wanted to show you how I was getting this in. And I, of course, love to play on contrast. So by making the foliage behind the barn much darker, it makes that little roof stand out. And I'm not having to do, a lot of detail here. It's just knowing how to lay the colors in. again, just adding the contrast in the background, I'll be able to lay this little, oh, I guess it's a little tractor shed or something in the background. It's the middle building that will go in. And again, keeping it super simple. I am not really, I just need to have it represented here. And so there's that little shed going in. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And then just knowing how I guess this little street or road just turns around the bend there, and laying it all in. But you do have a sense, even this early into the piece, that there is, hills and valleys, and they're off in the distance. Well, I'm using my ivory filbert. It's a pretty big brush. I believe that's probably a number 6. I'm not really sure, but I'm just kind of starting the building in. And I was so reluctant to really jump into the building because, as I said, I'm very intimidated by perspective, and it's just, it's just not my forte, but I'll eventually get it. And I'm just laying it in, just very, just, I'm not putting in any detail. I'm just really wanting to be able to see the building so I can manipulate it. And this little filbert, of course, does a good job in just getting that paint in. And knowing, too, that this is an old, dilapidated little building, I'm trying to make everything straight, when, in fact, there's nothing straight about it. This building is kind of sagging, and it's a little old, and, it's part of the charm that makes this, a fun piece to do. But I'm just, knowing that underneath the little roof line there, it will be darker, and it does have that kind of grayish green cast to it. So I am using, I'm graying down the greens. I'm using a lot of the Caribbean turquoise with white, and then probably mixing just a little bit of burnt sienna in it just to gray it down a little bit. I'm adding a little bit more detail where it needs to go in the background. And again, from here you can really tell that the background foliage behind the big red barn is a lot bluer and lighter in value, except for the dark areas. And the dark areas are very, very blue. And that other tree line in front of the barn, but behind the little tractor shed, is a lot warmer, greener. And as you come forward in the painting, you're starting to really create, capture the depth and that just manipulating values and temperature does. And I'm just putting a little bit more of the detail, and I thought I'd go ahead and at least try to get these trees in a little bit. I did use a paint scraper to scrape out some of the paint so I didn't have to blend quite so much. I didn't want to wait for the sky and the trees to dry for me to lay these trees in. So, I'm using one of my handy dandy daggers, and which are great for drawing little straight lines like this. And yes, you gotta love, how I love my dagger brushes. Besides doing hair and whiskers, they're great for putting on a roof. All right, so we're putting in the cooler shadowed area underneath the little roof line of this building, and I'm trying to put the door and the windows in and keeping everything in perspective, yada yada. Of course, I struggle with it. So I can see this might need to be a little bit longer, but I'm keeping the lines similar. Went out a little too far there, so I got to take that off. Remembering that the windows will look a little bit more narrow the farther away they are. And you can see I'm going, I have a darker value in there. It's kind of that weird green color. It's, and I need to just create the shape there. So again, I'm using that interesting little Richardson flat brush. I think they call that the gray matter. And it is a gray brush. But it is a lovely little brush, I have to say. Getting those windows in. And then you'll see I'll eventually figure out, I got to make this a little longer. And at some point I determined that that little roof line's a little pitch too steep. So I actually go back and raise the roof, so to speak. Change the pitch just a tad. But I'm feeling it. It's actually coming together, even though this is still very early on. And I'm actually using a paint scraper to cut out the window pane. Forgive me, my dog is in the background and he is just playing with a bone on the hardwood floor, and he's throwing it around. So that's the noise. So here you can see me mixing my paint, and I am using quite a bit of the Caribbean turquoise. It's a lovely color. It's just a nice, cool green, blue. It's a blue green, very blue green. And there is so much fun greens in this piece. And I'm really just still trying to figure some things out because there's this retaining wall. I think I got the angle a little too steep there, but it's okay. I'll be able to change it as I move up the wall a little bit off the foliage. But, I'm just kind of milling around here, and you can see the colors as I'm heading towards them. I did add a little bit of yellow ochre to the list of colors to the palette, and I actually added a little bit of permanent orange because even the watered down burnt sienna wasn't quite getting that rusty mark on the side of the building that I wanted. But yep, see, and I've already changed it a little bit more, the wall pitch, and
it's, you know, it's coming. So I have to get the wonkiness in this roof line. So it does pitch in towards, you know, it sags right in the middle of it. So I think I got the sag. And Singer is chewing that bone. He's just, of course, he waits till I'm recording voiceovers to do that. All right, so I'm darkening the actual glass panes, and knowing I'm going to have to create the inside of the sill of each one of these little windows, and just going slightly lighter value. I don't want to go white because underneath there it does look green to me. It just looks green, so I'm staying consistent, just really working with the value. So it's the same colors, just different values. And we're just going to go ahead and get the trim around the windows. I am using a Shiraz Filbert. I believe it's a number 2. Great for making little window moldings. And I've got to get around the doors, and I think you get the idea. now to get into something I'm a little bit more comfortable with, and that's doing some of the foliage of the trees. So I'm mixing my darker foliage first, and I'm using just the sap green with the Caribbean turquoise and a little bit of ivory black, and putting down the darker part of the foliage. And it looks weird at first because I don't have any branches going towards it, but trust me, I won't leave these leaves floating in space. And I'm using the Green Lake as my lighter version, and that's where the sun's shining through them. Keep in mind, I do have a reference that I'm looking at, and you saw it in the beginning. And so the light's coming through the trees here, so that's why it's brighter and lighter. But, you know, I do like to do trees, and I do like to do foliage, and this is something I got this part. This part I got. Not a problem for me. And I'm using one of my smaller Eclipse filberts just so I can have the tiny detail of this. Not really, I'm just kind of, as you can see, it's not like I'm doing each individual leaf, but I'm scattering it and making it as random as possible so it doesn't look like it's controlled. I need my dark values in there, and where it's shady, and I put the light values on top. And you'll see, I'll layer these trees up and be real happy with them. Well, any good front porch on any good southern home, of course, will have to have some chairs to sit in. So I've got to pop these little chairs into the front porch. There was 3 of them in the front. And, you know, I can just imagine the conversations that were had on this little front porch. Right there with the little side street. People just watching the day go by, sitting in these little chairs. Yeah. So, yeah, got to get the chairs in, and being conscious of the shadows that are behind the chairs and even the little bit of shadow that's underneath the chairs. I'll eventually get it all. So I'm just kind of popping in the shadows, grounding the chairs a little bit, putting the arms and legs on everything. I guess it's, yeah, the legs of the chairs going in. It's coming together. Getting closer. Well, I had used my dagger brush to do some of the thinner branches here, but unfortunately I forgot to turn my camera on, so you didn't get to see that part. But you can watch me put the foliage in over the leaves, and obviously I'm using the lighter color, the lighter green, which is the Green Lake light, and a little combination obviously of sap, and I'm just kind of popping in all my colors here and layering them up. So I have, foliage in front of the tree trunks, and so it does have a nice shady little feel to it. This is fun for me. This kind of stuff is fun. As I get closer and closer to completing this piece is when I start putting in the detail. And there's just these little, random little trees off in the background. And again, remember, I have to get it just right. Maybe it would have looked nicer without those little trees, as far as a compositional thing. But you know what? This is a particular home. This is somebody's home, and they would remember those little trees in the background. And here I'm putting in, I don't know what this thing is. It's in the photo references. It looks like some type of mechanical piece, perhaps. I don't know. So I'm putting that in, and of course I'll be getting in the little mailbox. It looks like it was beat all to hell. But we'll get that rusty mailbox into here in just a bit. But you're just kind of popping in the little pieces and the little details. That's the stuff that makes the piece real. These are the things that people will remember. And I'm trying to figure out where to put this little mailbox, and I'm trying to put it in the right place in respect to where other things are, like that weird little mechanical piece. And yep, so we're getting in the mailbox and all the little detaily things, and that I'm getting close to the end on a painting. Obviously, Singer's got to watch what's going on outside. He sees other dogs. He takes his job very seriously. He is the official studio dog. Singer, you silly boy. A good old country road. That's just a gravel bed. I'm just getting in the gravels here. And no, I have to keep in mind that as it gets off to the distance, it's going to almost look like it's a white road. But really, as it gets closer, you're able to see a lot of the gravels and the dirts and the darker colors. And there is a shadow that I guess the house creates. Could be the trees. Anyway, there's a definite, distinct color shift there, a temperature shift, and it also carries through to the gravel as well. So it is warmer in the background, believe it or not, and cooler in the foreground because of the shadow. But we're getting in all the little nuances here. Got to dirty up the wall a little bit. And I actually have to bring up the wall and change the angle, whether I bring down the foliage or bring up the wall. Either way, I have to change that angle. It's a little too steep, but you'll see I will fix that. And that was me actually hanging my brush up against it and saying, okay, I got to bring that up on the sides a little bit. And just suggesting, I'm not really laying in the block wall, but I'm trying to at least suggest it, and bringing a little foliage over the top. And so it's all coming together here. And it is fun to play those light colors off of the light greens off of the the warm hot greens on top of the cool greens. I love using emerald green or permanent light green with the warm, it's almost a cadmium yellow green, this light lake green. And yeah, you know, I'm almost done. I am starting to do some of the foliage. I still haven't signed it and signed this piece. And if I was actually doing it alla prima, which I unfortunately wasn't able to do this alla prima, I would have scratched it in with the paint scraper, but that didn't happen. So I will be signing this a little bit later. I will have the client go ahead and give it a check, give it a once over, make sure everything's good before I sign it, and see if there's any changes that need to be made. But I think they'll be happy with it. I yeah, just putting a little bit of the background in between, you know, between the house and the actual background. That has to be consistent. So and the posts that are in the foreground that hold up that little roof line, I had to get those in, make sure they're straight. But we're getting ready to wrap it up, folks. I am getting so close, and I know I've got a little bit more detail in the gravel yet, but I'm just moving through the piece. I am using the Shiraz filbert. That was the I guess that's the number 5 or the number 8. It's the ones I told you I was starting with in the beginning. And so I pretty much, except for the one dagger brush, the Richardson flat that I was using, and the one, I guess it was an ivory filbert. Those were just, you know, and the 2 Shiraz brushes were the only brushes I used in this piece. Oh no, I take that back. When I was doing the foliage, I was using a little dome filbert. It's one of the red dots. It's a sable. It's a synthetic sable brush, but that, yeah, I didn't use as many brushes as I might have. But we're about to wrap it up. So this is the period where I actually look around and see, you know, what I need to do. And I feel like I've got my, you know, my distance created with the barn in the back, the tree line, the little, I don't know what kind of barn or tractor or shed or whatever that is back here, creating the depth even in my little road or path that goes up to this little house. This has to be right. This is a commission, and you know, this is their memories, and it's how they remember it. And so I'm going to show you the actual reference again. I'm going to swing it over here. Now they did have a long reference as far as like an 8x10 on its side, and they wanted me to do a 10x10. So I had to give it a little bit more height. And you know, of course, here's a confession, artist confession. I really struggle with perspective. So I've actually had to change the angle. I had to lift the little porch roof line up a little bit. I had it off, but it is also sagging. So when you look at the actual reference, even the little roof line, as you can see, is somewhat sagging in the middle, you know. So there's a little bit of, that's where the challenge comes from for me, folks. I am not gonna lie, perspective is a bear for me. But I wanted to include some of the little details, like the old mailbox. I have no idea what that thing is. It looks like some type of, I don't know, some kind of rusty metal thing. I think they had some type of supports trying to hold up the retaining wall. There's lots of rust and lots of wear and care and love in this little building. So hopefully I captured it, and I'm hoping that my client will be very happy with it. Obviously here you can see the palette. The palette's pretty worn out, but I think you can guess we have a lot of the greens. And being that this painting had an aura of green in it, even this building, the building itself, I guess, is a little white building, but it's basically a very light green just because of the reflective light and the colors around it made it look like it glows this green color. So I did use quite a bit of Viridian. I even used the Caribbean Turquoise by Michael Harding. It's in here too someplace. And of course, just all kinds of fun greens. I had Green Lake, and I had Permanent Green Light, Sap Green. We went over this in the beginning. I think I did add the Caribbean Turquoise to the mix, and of course I had my Burnt Sienna, Van Dyke Brown, a little bit of the Cerulean Blue, and just a lot of mixture of a lot of different colors that went into this little landscape. So there you are, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did enjoy today's video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so here we have the finished piece. And, you know, I am pretty pleased with how it turned out. Now, know that for me, perspective is a bear. I really struggle with it, but I think I was able to capture the whole idea of this little homestead. And this was a commission. This was a family's little homestead, or a part of their property that they had. And yeah, so I hope that they will be happy with it. So this is a gift. They probably won't see it till Christmas, but it's one of the first of many that I hopefully will be getting to here, getting ready for the holidays. So thank you for joining me. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give me a thumbs up, you know, and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And if you have any questions about anything you saw in today's video, just leave it in the comments section, and I'll get to you. I promise it. You know what? And I really do enjoy getting to know the folks that do message me or, you know, comment down below. It, I don't know, makes it fun for me to do this, because I actually feel like I'm talking to you and not just kind of blabbing continuously while I'm painting. So I do thank you guys for being here. And from Kingsport, Tennessee, I want to say thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.